Hello and welcome to the Celtic Way morning briefing for Friday, June 24th. With me today is Alison McConnell. How are we today, Alison? Understand you're on your way to Ayrshire, is that right?
I'm on the move, Sean, on the move, never standing still, never stop.
Roving reporter. Good stuff, but I'm hopeful that your signal holds up, so if it doesn't, guys, you'll have to bail me out with extra comments today, I think. It's absolutely glorious, by the way, on the Clyde Riviera here. I don't know if you're passing that or not, but I'm just looking forward to not leaving this spare room until it's dark, no doubt.
Pray to the gods of Wi-Fi, that's all we need to be worried about, Sean.
I mean, before we get to our first topic, as always, of course, as you can see if you're watching on pardon me, sorry, nearly choking there. Watching on YouTube, we are of course sponsored by the OneFootball app. The link is in the description, and it's a one-stop shop for all your football news, fixtures, stats, scores, etc., etc. It's on Apple and Android stores as well as being completely free. And speaking actually of Apple and Android and all of that, it's worth pointing out to you all that I don't know if you know, but we are actually on all the podcast apps now. So you just can't escape us, basically. And of course, speaking of free stuff, running along the bottom there, you can see that our special offer is still on the go, and it's 30 days of full access to the website for absolutely nothing. So you can go to www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. It's pretty easy to sign up, and the link is in the comments, or it will be shortly. And as always, guys, if you've got any questions, fire them in the comments, and we'll take as many as we can throughout the episode. So Alison, I thought we'd start with Harry Kewell. He was obviously signed up last week, but I suppose he was unveiled in a way in an extended club interview yesterday. Now, he came across well in it, if I say so myself, and one of the things that he said in it was that it was a no-brainer to join Celtic. Now, a lot of people say that type of thing, admittedly, but on this occasion, he said that he'd already interviewed well, he says, for another job. Yet when Ange Postecoglou threw him one of his now famous phone calls, it was an instant yes. So a couple of things, Alison. One, what do you make of that in terms of the appeal of working under Postecoglou? And two, what are your own thoughts on his recruitment in the first place?
Yeah, on the first point, I think when there's an existing relationship between people, I think that can be quite a lure. I think when you have a lot of respect for someone in a professional sense, and there's an opportunity to work together and collaborate, I think it can be very enticing. It can be very attractive. And I think obviously they know one another. They have worked together before. I think there would be an appeal on that front. Secondly, I think he came across well. I also think to have a player of that experience, of that repute, I think it helps at the club. I think he has a pretty considerable stature, I would say, which I think just helps when you're talking people through other high-profile games and you're there to offer thoughts in terms of a coaching capacity. I think it's interesting too that it's taken 12 months for that really to come about. You know, I think it said an awful lot about Ange Postecoglou this time a year ago that he was prepared to walk into a new club, needed completely overhauled, and back himself to do it on his own. You know, like, I think it spoke volumes for the self-belief you have in your own methods and styles when you thought, I'm capable of getting in even without my own backroom team and working. I'll work alongside whoever I need to and get on with it. But I think, I think he has an opportunity now to bring in Harry Kewell. I think it enhances the coaching setup at the club, and I think his experience could be pretty valuable.
Interesting, yeah. I mean, when I was on with Tony after he'd been appointed, my own kind of summation of it was that so far Harry Kewell's management career has been pretty uninspiring, and that's in terms of results and jobs. But that said, you can't judge how good a coach someone is on those metrics. It's a training ground thing. It's a personal level thing. Now, Tony interviewed Davis Kaler-Dunn, who played under him at Oldham Athletic, and he spoke almost exclusively about his training ground persona rather than his managerial one. So I think, if anything, that actually bodes better for Celtic, that's the impression he leaves on players that he's worked above, if you know what I mean. Add on the fact, as you said there, that Ange knows him somewhat already, and maybe, even though it seems obvious, maybe having both Australia's greatest ever manager and their greatest ever player within the club is a good thing to try, eh?
Yeah, I think it's one thing being a manager and something else being a coach. I think there's two very different strands to that, and I think management probably encompasses such a broad church that I think coaching can sometimes get squeezed given everything else that goes on around it. So I think he will probably alleviate some of the pressure maybe day to day on Ange Postecoglou, and maybe just be a buffer too between the dressing room and the manager, which I think sometimes you need, just a go-between almost. I think the manager carries a particular kind of profile around the club and on the training ground, and I think sometimes when you've got someone like Harry Kewell, just in terms of day-to-day training, I think he acts really as a conduit between the manager and the players.
Getting a lot of comments here about your location, Alison. Kevin saying Ali's in a camper van. Robert Gibson a wee bit confused because your house has shrunk into the size of a car.
I'm on the move today.
David Gillespie saying if he's good enough for Ange, he's good enough for me. There's a lot of those kind of comments going about, Alison. I don't necessarily want to go too far in that direction because ultimately I think in a way you make a rod for Ange Postecoglou's back by saying that, as if he's all knowing. He will get things wrong. He said that himself. I'm not saying it will be Harry Kewell, but to take that to its logical conclusion, it means he's never going to be wrong. He's never going to get anything wrong. Which, as I say, to me, that means when he does get something wrong, it's almost amplified. Like, how could he get it wrong? So I don't like going down that road too far. I don't know what your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think I think at the minute he's kind of anointed. At the minute, I think he can do no wrong. I think he could probably ask for whatever he wants and people would back him just because he's delivered a successful winning team. And I think what comes with that is what you're saying just now, that every decision almost goes unquestioned. I would agree with you. I'm not sure it's entirely healthy, but I think that's what happens when you deliver a successful side, that people have an inherent trust in your methods and in your judgment and in your decision making.
Yeah, I mean, David Ferguson saying here, I'm happy with any appointment Ange makes. Never thought I'd be saying that about a Celtic manager. That's probably going to be the sentiment until he gets one wrong, to be honest. But his hit rate, especially with transfers, I mean, I looked at all 17 of his transfers to the website week before last, and it is an extraordinary strike rate. And I realised there's some that probably weren't actually his signings, but the ones you can pinpoint that were definitely Ange Postecoglou men, apart from Ideguchi, they've all been a success so far, and you wouldn't say Ideguchi's been a failure because he's simply not played enough to see it. But there's some comments coming in here. Craig White, legend. I don't know if that's his name, Alison. A good player doesn't necessarily translate to a good coach. That is a fair point. John Coyle reiterates this as well. You give him a chance. That's all you can do. And ultimately, there is a sense of that leap of faith of, well, he's been identified. Ange Postecoglou knows him from the Australian youth setups for a wee while. And obviously his reputation precedes him for what he'd done on the pitch. But John Coyle's right. You do give him a chance. I'm just pointing out that it's not necessarily the case that he's going to get every single appointment right.
Yeah, I think, though, what you would have to say is that there would have been an incredible amount of due diligence done on it. And obviously, he knows him. He knows how he works. He knows how he thinks. He knows his philosophy. I think sharing the same kind of philosophy is probably very important too. I think then I think you could trust him to think, I know enough about him, enough about his coaching style and enough about his philosophy to think that it chimes with my own, to think that we complement one another, that we have a skill set where we feed off one another and there's a complementary give and go there.
Pete McGee mentioning Damien Duff. Damien Duff did do okay, but Damien Duff's Damien Duff and Harry Kewell's Harry Kewell. It's not relevant to me. Just in the fact that they're an ex-player, as we've kind of discussed, doesn't mean much. It means a lot maybe to the current players, but it doesn't necessarily tell you how good a job they'll do as a coach. Frank Brennan, trust the process until it becomes untrustworthy. I suppose that is the case. I think it's just that comment from David, the first one. That's just something that popped into my head, that it is almost like no matter what appointments made, no matter what signings are made, if Ange made it, it must be fine. That to me is actually unfair on Ange Postecoglou to have that viewpoint. But we'll kind of move on, which I suppose does take us logically to Transfers update. We've had a few comments, plenty of comments actually, about transfers, Alison, as there always is. Given it's Friday, and I'm absolutely convinced that something is going to happen just because it's a Friday, let's take a moment to summarise where we are, I suppose. Jota's World Tour stopped off at the Benfica training ground, which can be taken either as an emotional farewell or an, oh my God, why is he back there, depending on your disposition.
Yeah, who's he back to say his farewells, empty his locker, get his stuff, and move on. Time will tell. I think it's in danger of becoming the most long-running transfer saga of the modern time. I think at Celtic. I think touches of the Patrick Roberts summer. I think 1 year that lasted about 3 months as well. So I think I would reiterate what I've said all along. I think it gets to a point at some stage where you say, right, we need to know either way. But I think it certainly looks as though it's in the offing at the minute. It looks as though it's about to come to fruition, which I think would be a considerable boost for Celtic, be a real boost for the support. You know what he brings. He's settled. There's no adjustment necessary. I think it would be a real shot in the arm for them. But I think still until you dot I's and cross a question mark over it.
Yeah. The Retro Celtic saying, dare I say, it's becoming boring. It is a wee bit. That's what I've been trying to point out. Like the newsletter I wrote the other day, it was another non-update. Not the newsletter, but me pointing out that there was another non-update with the Jota stuff.
And nothing continues to happen element to it.
Yeah, it's usually, I was saying to Tony, it's essentially the same stage that we were at a couple of weeks ago. The stuff that's been getting released lately is stuff that was known already. It was just re-released again, if you know what I mean. So, no, I kind of agree with Retro Celtic. It is becoming a wee bit boring. On the other hand, Alexandro Bernabei, by all accounts, getting so close you could almost see the Alexandro the Great tweets getting prepared. And on that note, if any you're kicking about this afternoon, you might want to check this channel for a wee surprise offering about 3 o'clock. But yeah, Alison, beyond that, there's the usual rundown of names being linked, and with naturally those in one outlet saying yay, another outlet saying nay. It's just part and parcel of this kind of silly season. Ben Davies was the latest one last night, a player who obviously turned Celtic down before going to Liverpool. While there are still reports doing the rounds on the likes of Vinicius Souza and others. I mean, and obviously meanwhile, there's no movement on the supposed Josip Juranovic bid from the Premier League either.
I think that's just what you get in this time of year. I think spoke about it before from a journalistic perspective. It takes a lot of time to sift through that to really establish what's fact and what's fiction. I think you get flyers, you get stories from agents, you get all kinds of speculation at this time of year. I think it becomes it just waves of stuff. I think some will have grains of truth to it or elements of truth to it. But it can be very time consuming to work out exactly what is correct. And I think you just brace yourself for that over the summer. I think if you to talk about every single one, I think you're a sheepdog chasing rabbits. I think you don't stop. I think you're just chasing dead ends all the time. I think you want to be a wee bit more discerning and work out what has credibility, what carries any genuine traction. But what you do know is that at this time of year, you have agents selling players, you have players wanting to work their tickets, going elsewhere, and it's just a part of the landscape over the summer months.
Robert Gibson, Jota has become a Christmas panto. Oh no, he isn't. Oh yes, he is. Oh, there he's there. All that kind of stuff. It is, and I do take your point. Certainly on here, we've kind of tried to make a concerted effort not to just talk about every single link every day, because I think you would maybe get a wee bit bored with that. On the site, if there's a legitimate source behind a report, we'll do a scouting report. There's actually one up on Ben Davies the day. A quick look at him again, mostly because he was a solid, almost signed for Celtic player, and whether or not it comes to fruition, it's worth having a look at even whether he would fit in still. So we've got that up on the site today. And just in general, I mean, more than anything else, Alison, I would say it looks like a fourth summer signing after Dyson Maeda, Cameron Carter-Vickers and Benjamin Seagrist, obviously. It looks like a fourth summer signing is not far away now.
Yeah, it seems to have been a very well-managed window to date. It's been a fairly effective few weeks for Celtic in terms of the business that's been done. I think it augurs well for the next couple of weeks, because I think you'll probably see quite a few more coming in.
Mm-hmm. Right, we'll cut it there, I think. Before we head off, though, remember you can pick up 30 days full access to the website for free just now, and that will cover you for most of the team's pre-season prep as it stands. In terms of the website, there'll be more transfer scouting, continued analysis of the squad, which might include a wee depth chart here and there, and also more big interviews, of which there's a cracker coming from Tony on Sunday, and then there'll be usual features, opinions, and all of that. I'll put the link in the comments again, but for today, thanks a lot for your comments, guys. Very much appreciated. Thanks for your contribution, Alison. Enjoy your weekend, although we'll hopefully catch you at 3 o'clock today.
Take care, guys.